Sing tonight, I might as well start off this sermon with a song. Here we go. I thought I did what's right. I thought I had the answer. I thought I chose the surest road, but that road brought me here. So I put up a fight and asked you how to help me. And just when I had given up, the truth is coming clear. You know better than I. You know the way. I've let go. I'm a rabbi. The need to know why, for you know better than I. All right. These are the lyrics from a 2000 animated film, Joseph, King of Dreams, in which Ben Affleck voices Joseph, which is obviously a character from our Torah. And I have to admit, this film is not great. I think it was supposed to be a follow-up to the smash hit from DreamWorks Studios, The Prince of Egypt. This was a direct-to-video release, and it's just okay. But this song, You Know Better Than I, has always moved me. Joseph sings this song when he is at his lowest point, the bottom of Pharaoh's dungeon, and he is telling God that he is going to relinquish control of his life and let God decide his fate, which I think is a very difficult but important thing to do. This week's Parshat, Vayeshev, begins the story of Joseph, and it is the longest continuing narrative that we have in the Torah. Most of you are probably familiar with this story, but if you're not, here we go. Joseph is the bratty youngest brother, and his father, Jacob, gives him a beautiful, adorned, multicolored striped coat in front of all of his siblings. And this coat is supposed to be a sign that Jacob loves Joseph more than any of his other sons. Now, friends, I am not a parenting expert, but I'd like to advocate that maybe, just maybe, this is not a healthy way to parent your children. Maybe it is not a good idea to give one child a beautiful gift as a sign that they are better than everyone else. That might build a little bit of hostility, a little bit of jealousy amongst your other kids. Additionally, if you are the kid that receives this beautifully adorned coat as a sign that your dad loves you more than your other siblings, maybe you should not do as Joseph did and gather them all in a circle and tell them about a lovely little dream that you had in which they represent the moon and stars and sheaves of grain and then all bow down to you in submission. Maybe if you're the youngest of 12 sons and your brothers, all of whom are much bigger than you, and can pummel you, or I don't know, throw you into a well and fake your death. If they have the capability and motive to do that, maybe you shouldn't go around singing about how much better you are than them. Why? Well, because that's exactly what happens in the Torah. His older brothers strip him of his beautiful coat, and they throw lamb's blood on it, and they present the coat to Jacob, claiming that Joseph was mauled and killed by a wild animal, and then they plot to kill their brother. The Torah tells us it's only because of Yehudah, Judah, one of Joseph's brothers, it's only because he suggests that they sell him to traders to make a quick buck that Joseph's life is spared. Now, what's interesting about this whole story is that the rabbis want us to note a couple things. The first of which is that what Joseph's brothers do to him is obviously detestable, even if he was asking for it. But secondly, is that if they did not do this to him, millions of people would have died. Huh? You might be wondering what the rabbis are talking about. Allow me to explain. The rest of the Joseph story goes like this. You might know it. Obviously, Joseph is sold to Egyptians. He goes down to Egypt and he works for a guy named Potiphar, and he is framed for attempting to rape Potiphar's wife, a crime he does not commit. He's thrown into jail, where he demonstrates to other prisoners that he has an unusual talent of interpreting dreams. Pharaoh hears of this and has Joseph interpret his dream, in which Joseph tells him that Egypt will suffer a severe famine in the upcoming years, and that to avoid total starvation, they need to store grain in anticipation of this awful change of weather. Upon hearing this, Pharaoh makes Yosef second in command of all Egypt, and Joseph is tasked with making preparations for the famine, which he does, thereby saving millions of Egyptian lives from starvation. The rabbis want us to note, for the record, that had Joseph's brothers not sold him into slavery initially, then he would have never gone down to Egypt. He would have never been imprisoned. He would have never met Pharaoh. He would have never interpreted his dreams. He would have never become second in command of all Egypt, and he would have never been in a position to ward off famine. So through their despicable and terrible act, they, in some way, shape, or form, enabled Joseph to save millions of people from starving to death. Additionally, one could make the argument that if Joseph hadn't become second in command, his family would have never moved to Egypt. The Jewish people would have never been born and descended from them. Therefore, we would not have gotten Moses or Exodus or perhaps even the Torah itself. So the rabbis want us to be aware that every action that we make in this world has an affect. Now, I don't know about you all, but in thinking about that song, you know better than I too have had moments where I thought I knew what was right. I thought I knew how events would play out. And for whatever reason, the universe had other plans, and I was exactly wrong. And sometimes, friends, when this happened, I would be so angry at God because I felt like everything should have gone the way I wanted it to. I felt as if I was owed a certain thing or owed a certain situation, that I deserved it. But friends, I can speak to several times when things didn't go according to my plan, but rather they went according to God's plan. And things ended up being better than I could have expected them to go, even though they weren't initially what I wanted. You see, God knows better than we do. And sometimes it hurts when our plans don't align with His. But if Joseph is an example of what can happen if we simply just trust in the divine element, then we should know that some things are better off on God's timeline. Friends, as we approach the end of 2024, perhaps this year went the way that you wanted it to, or perhaps it didn't. Maybe you accomplished all the things you wanted to accomplish, or maybe you got sidetracked, or perhaps you even were defeated. Well, I've got good news for you. 2025 is just around the corner, and you have a brand new opportunity to start fresh. My advice: make plans and do the best that you can to stick with those plans and goals, but if they don't happen the way you want them to, Don't lose faith, because God might have a better plan for you. If God can take a prisoner at his lowest point in a dungeon and turn him into second in command of all of Egypt, just think of what he can do for you. You might have a dream, but God's dream for you is much bigger. Shabbat Shalom.